Hi Notioners, in this video I'm going to show you how you can set up a database to keep track of your progress as you work your way through a course, and how to consolidate all of the notes that you make inside those database pages into one place using synced blocks and a database page template to make that synced block easy to use. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how you can use an app called Bardeen, which is really a Chrome extension, to scrape the contents of web pages like this one so that you can add an item for each of the lessons in this course to a Notion database and make it nice and easy to record all of the information that you want to be keeping track of whilst you're working your way through a course like this one in your database. So let's get started. This is the website that I'm working on building right now. And I'm working on setting that up with Webflow, which is a fantastic tool, by the way. But I've only used Webflow a little bit before, so I'm finding it very beneficial to go through each of the lessons in their Webflow University page and learn about all of the different bits of functionality that I have at my fingertips now. So what I've been doing is adding a page for each of those lessons to this database here, and then you can see that I've been keeping recording a link to the lesson itself, categorizing the lesson based on these different topics that you can see listed down here. I've added a status property which I'm displaying as a checkbox to make it nice and easy to update, and a checkbox property so that I can favorite specific lessons that I want to come back to and have there for easy access inside this database view. To show you how to go through the process of getting all of that set up, let's go into this page here and we'll add a page for our notes to begin with. We'll add a synced block to this page, and I'm just going to add a sort of lowercase header to this synced block so that when we see it inside our database pages in just a second, we will know what we're looking at. I'm going to copy and sync, or copy a link to that particular block so that we can include that in our database page template. But before I set that up, I'm just going to change this property here to a status property, and we're going to show that as a checkbox. Can make that property column a little bit smaller now, and we'll add a checkbox property for our favorites. We'll make that a checkbox there. That should be a singular, and then we can add a property for our category. I'm just going to add the one category for now because we don't need to make this too complicated, but obviously you would be adding more. And then we'll add a URL property to store the link to the particular lesson that this page is set up to keep track of right there. I'm going to switch off column wrapping as well for that, because URLs often get a little bit long and start causing your pages in your database to wrap and not look so good. So now that we've got all of that set up, we can call that lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. And we just need to create a database page template for this database as well, like that. And we'll paste our synced block into this page like that. So now, as we're working our way through our lessons, we can just apply this page template, and that's going to insert the synced block for us. And what I've been doing is adding a toggle header block, so we'll call this lesson 1, and I can add my notes in there. And then if we go into page 2 for lesson 2, we can insert that synced block again, maybe collapse that, add another toggle header using some markdown formatting as a shortcut. And obviously you could be adding actions as well inside these blocks too. So if we go back into our notes page now, you can see that all of those notes have synced beautifully over into this one page from each of those lesson pages, and we can start working our way through our notes and actions when we need to go back through this content at a later date. The other way of creating these pages obviously is by clicking the down arrow next to the new button there and selecting the page template that we just set up. But you won't need to do that if you're using the automation, which I'm going to show you how to use right now. So if we go back into our Webflow University page here, into this particular lesson, the first thing you're going to need to have done is you will need to have installed the Bardeen Chrome extension from the Chrome Web Store. You can just Google Bardeen Chrome extension and it'll be the first option that comes up for you there. And then once you've installed it, you need to connect your Notion account and make sure that you share the pages that contain your databases that you want to sync content into with the extension. I've done that already, so if we go back to this page and we open up the extension now, first of all, we're going to start by adding a scraper template. So we will scrape a single page here, and we want to call this Webflow Lessons 2. Start building that. And all we need to do now is click on the elements of this page that we want to scrape whenever we run this automation. So if we click there and we call this title, and then we also need to add a field for the page link, which is just going to pull the URL from the page into this field. We'll call that URL so that we can sync that into our Notion database as well. And once we've done that, we can save the template there. So now if we create a new playbook, we'll call this, we won't need to call that anything actually at this stage. We can choose the scrape action, and we want to scrape the data from the active tab, and then choose our scraper template that we just created here. And that's all you need to do there. You don't need to worry about changing the number of list items to extract or adding a delay. And then if we click done, we can go over and add an additional action here. We want to choose our Notion app connection this time and create a Notion page to database, which is a bit of a funny name, but it works. Then we're just selecting our Notion database, which we have just set up, which is called modules. And our data source is going to be the data from action 1, where we were scraping the data from an active tab. Then if we click on this icon here, we are going to have the option to select the data from action 1 and map it to our Notion database properties. So we want to choose URL here, and we want to choose page title or title from there to map that to our Notion page title. If we click done, that's all we need to do. We can just name this automation to Notion number 2, and we can save that there. And then we've got the option to try this now, and since we're on one of the lesson pages, we can run this automation straight away, and that is going to scrape that data. And if we go into our database right here, we can see that that page has been created for that particular lesson. We've got a link to the lesson page, and now we can categorize it. We'll call this elements, and we can customize this a little bit. And then obviously we can update our status and favorite that page later on. The other thing I'm going to do here actually with this layout is I'm going to group this database view based on category and hide empty groups. So if we add the elements category to each of these pages, then that's going to hide the no category section there. And we can just go through and add a few more pages to that database using this automation. All we're doing now is clicking the extension and selecting that playbook each time. So you can see how much quicker this would be than pasting the page title and then the page URL into our Notion database one by one. And if we go back into our course content page now, you'll see that we've got 3 new pages in here. This no category section then basically acts as our inbox. So we know that these are new items that haven't yet been sorted out when we see them in here. And if we click on this cell actually, or one of the cells that contain a category already, hit escape and then use Command C or Control C if you're on a Windows PC to copy the category from there, and then click and drag to select the cells in this column here. We can use Command V to paste that category into those cells for each of those pages and categorize all of them in one go. And now we're ready to go. So I hope you can see how that will make it much easier for you to keep track of your progress as you work your way through a course like this one, how you can favorite your items, and use the Bardeen automation to quickly add pages to your Notion database with the details from the course pages without having to do any copy and pasting at all. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to add a comment, and I'll see you soon for more guides like this one.